Hi Aries, this is Kajora Lovely with your general reading for the month of March 2019. You can also check out my general reading for the month ahead for all signs. The link is in the description box below, where I talk a little bit about the astrology of the month, the moons, and the general themes that everyone will be feeling as a whole. So for this month, we're going to go into what's happening specifically for Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus, North Node, everything affected whatever you have in your chart in Aries. Also, happy birthday to those of you who are celebrating. I know a lot of Aries in my life, and my rising sign is in Aries, so I feel your energy when it's your season. Okay. So also, just to let you guys know, I'm not only a tarot card reader, I'm also a Reiki healer. And I do tarot card readings and Reiki healings in person in LA, and also, which is where I live, and also distance. So if you're interested, you can always email me. My contact information is in the description box below for an in-person or distance session. So, and I'm reading with the Radiant Rider Waite for those of you who are curious. Every time. Okay. It's a lot of swords this month, which can mean, because swords are an air element, so it can mean making sure that you're not getting in your head. One thing to keep in mind too, leading up to your birthday can sometimes feel like your personal winter, and it probably doesn't help that we've also been in winter. So if you feel like things haven't been quite going your way this month, or up until now, that could be why. It could be feeling like things aren't going that great, but it's often because your birthday is like your new year. And so I would say too, keep in mind on your birthday, you can treat it like your own personal new year. So the things that you're doing the day of your birthday are things that you want to be doing the rest of the year. So things like making money, but also spending time with friends, the people that you want to be with, putting your energy wherever else you would like to put it the rest of the year. Anyway, let's get started. So, sorry, I've been doing some throat chakra clearing. This Ace of Swords is where you are now. So this is victory. This means that there's something that I'm hearing, something that you may have gone through, something that you haven't been through yet, but it can also be that you're feeling victorious. There's also a spiritual element to this card. So it could be that for the month of March, some of you might be feeling influenced by the sign of Pisces, which is the season we're in at the beginning of this month. And that is a very spiritual card in a lot of ways, and it has the intuitive element to it. But while and it could be that you're having triumph because you're also dealing with someone who's being manipulative, possibly stealing, taking things, being underhanded, lying, cheating, all of that. Sometimes this can also mean someone who is a bit non-traditional. So you can take it how it applies to you. But I would say in that, it means that someone may have been pulling something underhanded, but you're being victorious. But also where you are now is the Hermit in reverse. And this means you're coming out of hermit mode. This was one of the themes for the whole month of March. And this means that you're coming out from staying in, feel like you're not associating with a lot of people, kind of moving out more in the world. Now, what's crowning you, sort of an overarching influence, is the Knight of Swords. So there's a lot of anxiety going on. This can mean that you're in your head a lot. So let's ask, what is the best remedy for this? Because this is often the sort of can't sleep. You're just worrying about the hypotheticals. And it's a pretty dramatic card because it's like the swords are literally going through your mind and keep making it hard for you to get any mental rest in that way. So what's your advice for Aries for this? Master your emotions. The King of Cups upright. So the King of Cups is about emotional mastery. Also hearing patience. Have patience with yourself and patience with others. Yeah, than just emotional mastery. So this card is about being aware of your emotions, being in touch with your emotions, being honest about your emotions. And Pisces, so there's a lot of, there's a lot of this in the general video, but so Mercury is in Pisces this entire month and into April. And that means that the way we communicate will be very emotional. We're also starting it in Pisces season. Neptune is also in Pisces. There's a lot of that water energy. So that water energy means things can get emotional. It can get kind of difficult. And Pisces is a very expansive sign, so there may not be a place where there's really boundaries when it comes to that. And then with Mercury and Pisces moving into Aries season, with the Aries element, that can get kind of combative. So I think it's important that when it comes, especially to what's going on in the mind, I'm hearing witnessing yourself and protecting yourself. So I think it's making sure that you're protected energetically, spiritually, mechanically, however that applies to you. Maybe asking for protection on your car, or if you work around machines or you're around a lot of machinery. I feel like some of you may be asking for protection. You can call on Archangel Michael, but whoever you work with. Also, if you have kids who have to walk to school by machinery or by anything, asking for protection for them. And if what I'm saying resonates with you, then please do that. Or if you're worried about your kids, wherever they're walking, if they're near some kind of equipment or something, make sure that you ask for protection for them. And you can do a blanket, this entire month or moving forward, and please make that self-renewing so that the energetic shield doesn't get worn down. It's interesting. So, what's sort of at the base of your reading is the Queen of Swords in reverse. So this could be you, or it could be someone that you know. And it can be somebody who is possibly an air sign, Aquarius, Gemini, or Libra. But it can also be somebody who is... The Queen of Swords has the potential to be that similar to this, calculated, difficult, underhanded. The King and Queen of Swords are very much like, I want shit done, and I want it done my fucking way, and I want it done now. And I don't really care if I'm making any friends or not, because I want it done. And it's that energy. And so it's not always that rude, but it can come across that way sometimes, because it's often I know what I want, I know how to get this there, and I just want it to happen. When it's in reverse, because sometimes when it's upright, that means that usually the person's coming from a good place, even if the way that they're saying it isn't the most diplomatic. But when it's in reverse, usually there's an ill intention there. There's something... the person's not being forthright about. Let me pull another card on that one. Yeah, so the Magician in reverse, I would just say it's somebody who's doing things to get whatever they want out of the situation. So let's ask, what's the best way for Aries to handle this person or situation? That doesn't help. Can you clarify that, please? So you've got the King of Pentacles in reverse, and then the King of Swords. So that's interesting. So number one, that can mean, because you've now got the King and Queen of Swords, you've got 3 kings and a queen and the Magician. And obviously the other king is up here with the King of Cups. But in this particular scenario, you've got air, earth, And oh, I always forget what planet goes with the Magician. But you've got some manipulation, some conniving. So I feel like I'm not really getting much with this King of Pentacles card. Let's see. Oh, I think it's also like, okay. Don't let anyone diminish your worth or self-worth. With this, because the pentacle is what's standing out to me, it's like, don't stop yourself from getting that coin. But that could also mean because pentacles relate to money, but also home and work. It relates to anything that has to do with the earth element. So if somebody is putting that in jeopardy for you, whether it's your home, your money, something you're in charge of, something you're related to, that can mean making sure you keep your eye on your prize. Don't necessarily get into battles with this person because it will probably not be great. Because then you have the King of Swords upright. So the King of Swords, like I said, is kind of similar in that way, but this means you're coming from a good place. So with both of those, I feel like it's don't compromise your values, but also be forthright with this person, but coming from a better place than they are. So if they're coming from that, you're like, well, you're like, no, it's like this. That's how we're doing things now. Moving forward, it's like this. And no matter what they say, broken record, you draw the line, you show them, you tell them what time, and you don't have to necessarily tell them what time it is in the sense of like telling them off, but more just saying, nope, this is the boundary. 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 And that's it. And it's interesting because none of these are your element. So it might feel a little odd for some of you because it's air and earth. And then as far as any anxiety, that's coming more from a heart-centered place. That's more about love. So it's interesting that it's almost no fire. So it's not something that can be ruled by anger, passion, or fury. Something to keep in mind. Because it's not something where you can just channel that Aries energy and bring out the ram and be like, oh, it's on. It's more like, okay, let's think reasonably about this. Let's feel reasonably about this. Let's act reasonably about this. What is it really that we're trying to accomplish here? What is it that are really our goals moving forward? Because there is someone who's going to be pushing some boundaries, because in the near future, you've got the Nine of Wands, which means that you're feeling under attack or you're preparing for the next onslaught. You know, if you look at this card, this person has their head bandaged because they've been in battle. They've got the wands up. They're ready for another attack. They're about to put this one in place and form a wall. So this usually means that you're kind of like, all right, when's the next siege? When is the next battle coming? What's going on now? Like, great, we get to go to war again. But this usually is not the Mars like, war. It's more like we're battle weary. We're tired. Like, morale is low. We're running out of food. It's freezing. We don't want to do this anymore. We don't even remember why we started this battle in the first place. We just want to be done. And it's funny because what's influencing you right now is the Ten of Wands in reverse. So you've got 3 Wands cards, and that's the only fire you've got in here, which is very interesting. And 2 of them have to do, well, one of them has to do with conflict. The other one has to do with letting go of a burden. So this means that wherever you are this month, at some point, you're going to be acknowledging things to let go of. I've been pulling this in some of my personal readings as well over the last month. So this is a theme that's going on, which I feel like actually makes sense considering that it's the end of winter moving into spring. So it's that releasing the old baggage, moving on, preparing, it's that spring cleaning. So it's something to keep in mind if some of you feel bad about this. As a healer, I have to say, it didn't take me a while to figure this out, but it's something I've learned and I've seen, which is that you taking on other people's baggage does not heal those wounds for them. People have to heal things for themselves. And I think a lot of us care about people that we're close to and try to take on their baggage, their wounds, their debris, and try to make things better for that other person. But that's emotional labor that you don't have to do for anyone else. You only have to do that for yourself. It's their job to do that for themselves. You can point them in the direction, but they're the ones who have to do the work. If you do the work, they're not learning anything. They're not actually progressing or moving on or moving forward, unfortunately. So I think it's important not to feel selfish about that, to acknowledge and to say, this is not mine to carry forward with me into the future, which is reminding me again of Marie Kondo. And I feel like her philosophy actually applies a lot to healing, because it's about saying this pattern, this behavior, these people, these things in my life. It's not just physical stuff. It's also emotional baggage. It's wounds. It's some barriers. It's people. It's situations. It's things that you don't want in your life anymore. You know, if you're saying, I don't want to keep dating this type of person, then you have to analyze that situation and say, what have I learned from this? Thank you for what you have taught me. I release you from my life and I let you go. You are not what I'm carrying with me moving forward. Because you have to have that actual release, that cutting of the past, or cutting of something that you don't want to take with you in order to not have it follow you into the future. So in the future, you may be feeling a little bit dissatisfied when it comes to things related to work. You may have a low point where you're thinking, oh my God, have I even done anything worthwhile? Have I even created anything that has any meaning beyond me? I don't know, because this card is often about seeing how far you've come and kind of taking stock and inventory and acknowledging the point that you're at now. But when it's in reverse, you're not seeing that. You're just feeling low. And so with that, I think it can help to change your perspective and to look at it honestly and say, where have I succeeded? And if I failed, what have my failures taught me? What have the lessons of the past taught me in this experience? Or something about experience. What has my experience taught me? Yeah. Voicing your lessons from the past. That's what I'm hearing. So with the moon in reverse, sorry, that means there's someone talking. I'm hearing, don't be the two dogs barking at the moon, be the moon. Interesting. So I think it's almost like don't pine for a mystical, this applies especially to those of you, I think, who are looking for some mystical abilities or some mysticism in your life. It's kind of like not pining for it, not just drawing attention to it, being it. So I would say actually in that many ways what that applies to probably is walking your talk. It's not just about saying it really loudly, it's about being it, it's about doing it. Because the moon card is also about introspection, shadow work, focusing on the parts of you that are a bit dark and scary. It's about looking at your flaws and being honest with yourself about them, because they are a part of you. Whether you like them or not doesn't really matter. They are a part of you. Ignoring them does not help. And it almost feels too of like, because they keep drawing the dogs to my attention. So, and I often see dogs as creatures that were bred for humans, because I'm obviously a cat person, and cats have been bred for beauty to a certain extent. Of course, that woke that cat up. It's really funny. But dogs were bred for certain purposes when it comes to hunting, especially. But for all different kinds of things. And they follow humans around because they're bred to be with us, right? That's why cats can really with humans, they can take it or leave it, because they don't really give to who it's about. It's maybe we feed them and give them some attention. Whereas dogs have been bred to be with us at all times. They are bred to be our companions. So in a way, it feels like not being the companion of not necessarily focusing on that energy of like, oh my God, okay, I get what this is maybe, because I just heard kill your heroes, which is something I've been thinking about lately. Especially when certain celebrities or famous people die, or certain things that they did are brought to light, and everyone suddenly talks about it. And there's this whole, well, is this the right time to bring this up? But we have to be honest about who people are. Everyone, well, it goes back to what I was saying before with this card. Everyone is flawed. Everyone has flaws. They simply exist, whether someone is alive or whether they're dead. And I think it's also a matter of not necessarily putting someone in an idealistic position or an idolized position, and instead focusing on yourself. That whatever the attributes are that you like about someone else, how can you cultivate those in yourself? And are they really worth cultivating? Because if it's superficial, will that really make you feel satisfied or happy? You know, what are your own standards of beauty? What do you want yourself to be when it comes to those things? How can you figure out what it is that you like about a celebrity and put that within yourself? The aspects that you want. And maybe even it's not a direct translation. It's not that you should be a copycat. It's about thinking about, I feel like it's just being true to yourself, and then not putting the power on someone else and giving them that much power over you and how you view things in the world. Also, some of you may be going through some heartbreak. This doesn't necessarily have to mean a breakup. It can, but it can also mean the end of a job. It's just something that can make you feel sad. It could be related to these things too, especially whatever this conflict situation is, this anxiety, and dropping these burdens, because it could be that all of this that's going about will lead to some heartbreak. But that also makes sense with the moon, because this often means there's an opportunity to learn and grow. When it's in reverse, that means it's not happening. So that's the challenge, is to take stock and take inventory in yourself, and figure out what lessons you have learned and can learn from this situation. And I heard, Marie Kondo that shit out of your life. Oh, God. Somebody has a real sense of humor. And then at the end, you have a celebration, a success, 4 of Wands. So this is often, I see this as like celebrating with your friends. This can mean an actual celebration of some sort. So that could also be for some of you your birthday. That you have a celebration coming up for your birthday. Let me just pull my card on that one. The High Priestess. So it could also be that some of you are really, because that is not a card that comes up a lot, FYI. The High Priestess is about the mystical, intuitive side of spirituality. Or even just your own mystical, intuitive aspects. The more spiritual side, not necessarily, for some of you, pagan, but not necessarily religion, of tradition, rules, and order. This is more about abstract thinking. Yin energy of passivity, of receiving, surrender, trusting, not necessarily active pursuing. So I think it's also for some of you, this makes sense, because March 21st is the vernal equinox, which means there's an equal amount of daylight and sunlight. So, with this, because you have these 2 pillars, the black and the white, don't ask me what the B and J stand for, because I do not remember. Those are those aspects, again, yin and yang, masculine and feminine, and finding the balance between the two, which is also what the equinoxes are about. It's about finding a balance within yourself, because it's that balance of light and dark. So I feel like that could be the challenge, and or at least the possibility for some of you when you're going through this month with all of this conflict that's going on. And by the way, don't forget that we started with victory. Is to find a balance, find an emotional equilibrium for yourselves. Sorry, they're saying things, but they don't quite make sense. Find where the chaos resides in your life and double it down. quiet it down. So I think it's about acknowledging, if you feel like you've got chaos, of acknowledging the source of that chaos, the pain, the agony, source where it comes from, and you will be fulfilled. Sorry. Well, that makes sense with this releasing a burden with the 10 of Wands in reverse, that you're letting some things go. So I think it's also about acknowledging where the source of all of this agony and pain is coming from. And probably using, because this can also mean using your intuition when it comes to that, and seeing what your gut tells you. Where is this coming from, and how can you address that situation moving forward? Okay, well, I hope you have a wonderful month. And for those of you celebrating your birthday this month, happy birthday. And I will see you all again next month.